Hi, all right, this is lesson 6 of the integer unit, and the title of this lesson is called Tricks to Subtract Integers. Again, this is without the number line. So this, I'm warning you, is going to be a very foreign concept. So you may need to pause and re-watch a certain part of the video if something does not make sense to you at first. So don't be afraid to go back if need be. All right, so let's get started. Right off the bat, I have the subtraction rule provided for you. So subtracting a number, and please get a highlighter to make this part stand out because I'm going to be repeating these lines a lot in this video. Subtracting a number is equivalent to adding its additive inverse, or in other words, the opposite number. So I'm going to read that one more time. Subtracting a number is equivalent. It's the same as adding a number's opposite. Okay, so let's see this wording in action. So in example 1, we have 6 minus 10. So up until this point, we've been taught how to subtract positive numbers, but we've always subtracted we've always had the smaller number subtracted from the larger number. And so because of that, our answers have always been positive, but that's not going to be the case moving forward. So 6 minus 10 is our first introduction to that. We are taking more away than we actually have. So I know that this is going to be a negative answer, 6 minus 10, right? We start with 6 and we take away 10. So another way of looking at this is we know that 6 minus 10 is the same as 6 plus negative 10. So again, it goes back to the phrasing in our characteristics of subtraction. I guess that's what you could call it. So what they said was, this is the same, subtracting is the same as adding. So instead of subtracting here, they changed that to an addition sign, and I highlighted that in green. Okay, then they said, but we can't just change subtraction to addition. It's not that simple. It's adding the additive inverse, or in other words, the opposite number. So if we're going to change subtraction to addition, we have to change the number that we're subtracting. So instead of subtracting 10, we're going to add negative 10, meaning we're going to add the opposite of 10. So in our original problem, and I've highlighted this in pink, this is a positive 10. So the opposite of 10 is negative 10. So if we change this to an addition problem, we need to add the opposite, which is why we changed that to negative 10. So our reason for changing this subtraction problem to an addition problem is because we know that we already know how to add integers. We already know how to add positive and negative numbers. So we are applying something from what we have already learned to a new concept. So 6 plus negative 10, that answer is negative 4. So that's how you get the final answer, negative 4. All right. In example 2, the same concept is applied. So what we did was we changed the subtraction problem to an addition problem. So instead of, I'll highlight this in blue, so we have 3 take away negative 2. 3 minus negative 2 is the same as 3 plus 2. And again, we changed that subtraction problem to an addition problem. All right, so how does that work? I'm going to use my highlighters again. So instead of 3 minus, we did 3 plus. You'll notice the first number doesn't change. That's not what's impacted here. It's the second number that changes because that's the number that's being subtracted. So instead of 3 minus, we have 3 plus, and the number we originally subtracted, I have that highlighted in pink, is negative 2. So in order to change this to an addition problem, you have to add the opposite. The opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So as crazy as this may seem, 3 minus negative 2 is the same as 3 plus 2. And that's a much easier problem for us to look at and figure out. 3 plus 2 is 5. So your final answer for example 2 is 5. So 3 minus negative 2, that is equal to 5. 3 plus 2, that's also equal to 5. And the reason for that is because those are equivalent expressions. So I have an example at the bottom of the page where I will be demonstrating how to rewrite a subtraction problem to a sum. All right, so the keywords here are subtracting is the same, is equivalent as adding the opposite number. So I rewrote that as a visual while we work on example 1 together. So we don't need to find the differences for this problem. It just wants the problem written as an addition sentence. So negative 5 minus 8 is the same as, okay, so let's get started here. So the first number stays the same. That's not going to be affected by our rule. So I'm going to write negative 5 here, and I'm going to highlight that in green just so I can color code each part of the math statement. Okay, and then the next thing we see is minus. So this is the part that's going to change because they did ask in the directions to change the subtraction to an addition problem. So instead of subtracting 8, I'm going to add, and let me highlight that in pink. So that part has been changed. And then the last part is 8. So over here, we subtracted positive 8, all right? So we need to add the opposite. So the opposite of positive 8, right? Let me circle that. This is positive 8. We're subtracting positive 8. So we need to add the opposite, which is negative 8. Negative 8 is the opposite of positive 8. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow. Hopefully color coding this helps you piece together where these things come from, okay? So negative 5 minus 8 is the same as negative 5 plus negative 8. All right, let's take a look at the next one. 9 minus negative 1 is the same as, so let's color code again. I'm going to pre-highlight my blobs just to make it easier to fill in. So the first number, the part in green, that's not going to change. All right, so 9 minus is going to become 9 plus, and the opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. So 9 minus negative 1 is the same as 9 plus 1. Question C. Oh, I wanted my highlighter there. Okay, let's color code first. And this certainly is not mandatory, but if you are finding that it's making it easier for you to understand, then you certainly can do the same thing on your paper as well. Okay, so 4 is going to stay the same, all right, in my green blob. So 4 minus is going to become 4 plus, and the opposite of 7 is negative 7. So I have to put that in parentheses. Without parentheses, it'll look like, let me go back and show you what that would look like. If I wrote 4 plus negative 7 without parentheses, it looks like 4 plus minus 7. Minus and a negative, those do not mean the same thing, okay? Minus is a verb, whereas negative is an adjective in the sentence, in an English sentence. So meaning minus is a verb, it's an action. Negative is an adjective, it's describing something. This is negative 7. It's describing the type of 7 that we have. It's not a positive 7, it's a negative 7. So, so that's why we want to make the parentheses very clear and that we're separating those two symbols apart. So with the parentheses, it's very clear that we're adding 4 plus negative 7. Okay. So next, last problem, let me get the colors out and then I can go over the steps. Okay, so the first number is going to stay the same. So negative 3, instead of negative 3 minus, we have negative 3 plus. And instead of subtracting positive 5, we're going to add negative 5. So that's the process that would get us rewriting a difference as a sum. So I'll let you work on that. And I'll let you work on the next exercise. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so flip to the next page. You'll notice that there's two exercises. And exercise 1 is just like our example where you're just writing the difference as a sum. So you're rewriting the problem to an addition sentence. Exercise 2 is going to take it to the next step where it says, okay, write the difference as a sum and then find the answer. What's the final answer going to be? So once again, these are questions that I want you to do on your own, and go on to Schoology to check my answer key to make sure that you have the correct answers. I'm not going to be going over the answers to these exercises in the video. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. I know that subtracting is a very abstract and strange thing to do, particularly when it comes to subtracting negative numbers. So please go back, rewatch things, and again, ask questions if something doesn't make sense. So good luck, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.